Good morning all, I hope you're well. Just a quick video here to help you get ready for your test. Your quizzes are going to be a huge help to you. I'm breaking it down as far as what numbers on the quizzes that you should be focusing on so that you can figure out how to do well on these. So here are your question numbers. So when you go back over, do check on those. Question 4 on quiz 9.1 to 9.4 will be a different picture to verify Euler's formula. And number 7 was one where you had to have this total surface area and the lateral surface area originally. On your test, it'll be just total surface area, and the same thing with question 11. On the second quiz, 9.5 to 9.7, once again, it's surface area only, not the volume as well for that problem. So what we need to do now is take a look and get you some formulas gathered up for doing these things. Now, these are not going to be in the same order, so please make sure that you're studying what questions go along with those so that you know what to do. All right, so things that would be useful to you. First of all, we need to have Euler's formula. Remember Euler, the great educator who educated everyone, even the German princess. So V plus F equals E plus 2. Remember, that was vertices plus faces equals the number of edges plus 2. Another thing that you're going to need to have is you're going to have to make sure that you've organized your surface area formulas, because quite a number of those questions are asking for surface area. When it asks for surface area, it might say surface area, it might say total surface area. They mean the same thing. So the total surface area, if you have a cylinder or you have a prism, we have the same formula where S equals L plus 2B. L being the lateral surface area and B being the area of the base. So that would be important for you. If you have a cone, if you remember what that shape looks like. For a cone, our surface area was 1/2 the circumference of the circle of the base times the slant height plus the radius. When you had a pyramid, your surface area was 1/2 of the perimeter, once again times the slant height plus the apothem. Okay, and these will be your good formulas to get you through this. And then we had a sphere. And for the sphere, the surface area was 4 pi r squared. Okay, so all of those things going across, those were your surface area formulas. They may be mixed up for you. Now notice in here we have L. Okay, so you have your L being your lateral surface area. Now the questions are focused more on finding the total ones, but since L, the lateral, is part, you need to also make sure that you're writing down your lateral surface area formulas to have them right there in front of you. Okay, so your lateral surface area formulas, first of all, for a cylinder, L was going to equal the circumference times how tall the whole thing is, the capital H height. And for a prism, Your lateral surface area was the perimeter times the height, times how tall the whole thing was. And so those things were important for you figuring out what your various different complete and total surface areas are, because they're apart. Notice also in here, since we have circumference, we need to review about circumference. Okay, circumference in a circle. Circumference equals 2 pi r. Also in a circle, the radius is half of the diameter. So the diameter is 2 times the radius. Okay, just so that you keep those in mind, those would be helpful to you. You also want to keep in mind that when you're looking for the areas, okay, the area formulas for the base, area of the base, when you're thinking about those areas of the base, you want to keep in mind your basic formulas for those things, because these are going to show up in quite a few different things. So you want to think about the different B formulas. So in a circle, the area of a base would be pi r squared. If you have a triangle, for example, and you needed to calculate, it would be 1/2 little b for the base of the triangle times little h, which is the height. Now, thinking about triangles, there's a couple of other things that might be helpful to you, and one of those things would be the Pythagorean theorem, because you might need to use that to find a base, a little b base or a little height. So the Pythagorean theorem, don't forget, when you have a right triangle involved, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So that might be helpful to you. And then also thinking about more about triangles. If you have a special right triangle, this would help you for one of them if you have a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Or more likely, you would have a 60, 60, 60 triangle that was divided up to help you find the height of it. Just trying to give you a little bit of context clues there. But if you have this, remember we have a length of this side right here, which might be x. The hypotenuse would be 2x. Then the important part for this particular test would be this part of that triangle in 30, 60, 90 would be whatever this number is times the square root of 3. So that would be super, super helpful for you in possibly finding the area of a base, which could possibly help you for the area of the surface area eventually for the whole thing. Now, we've talked about surface areas, but we also have to talk about volumes a little bit. So what you're going to want to do also on this note sheet to hold handy so that you don't have to be paging back and forth is think about the volume formulas. Okay, so if we had a right rectangular prism, in other words, a box, right rectangular prism, so just your typical box, which is the most simple one, we'd have length times width times height. Remember, it doesn't matter which one's the length or the width or the height, because they all, you're multiplying them all anyway. If you have a circular cylinder or you have a cylinder, any cylinder, okay, because it can be a circular cylinder, it can be one that's tilted over, it can be one that's upright. The volume is, here's our area of the base again, and our total height. So our base times our height. Sometimes you're given the area of the base so you don't even have to calculate. So remember that was a thing. For a cone, you had a volume formula that was 1/3 pi r squared times capital H. In other words, how tall the whole cone was. You had a pyramid one where the volume again was started with a 1/3. 1/3 area of the base times the height. And then finally a sphere. We did a little bit of spheres. So your volume for a sphere would be 4/3 pi r cubed. So keep that in mind. And then finally you had one last thing on the very last quiz that took you back to arc length. And that was where the length of that piece on the outer part of the sphere was the angle divided by 360, because it's a part of 360, times 2 pi r, which was the radius that came from the inside of the sphere. All right, so I just wanted to take that opportunity to tell you which problems to focus on when you're going back over. There's not the thing with the crazy thing that looked like the 2 ice cream cones up above and down below. That was great for a quiz because you were allowed to think it through and ponder it with people, and lots of parts on that. And another thing is that question 1 on that last quiz, it was a lot of points on your quiz, but on this test it's only worth 5 points, so it's not anything to get all worried about. Okay, you guys can do this if you're working hard, and I'll just leave you right now to your studying and going back to what you need to do. Don't forget to fill out your study progress report. Thanks, and have a really blessed day.